Welcome to Commerce Media Matters, your go-to podcast for unpacking the world of commerce media. Here, we catch up with industry leaders on news, research, insights, perspectives, and everything in between.
Hi, I'm Paul, Director of Commercial Data and E-commerce at News Corp Australia.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm founder and CEO of Voodoo. And today we are going to be going deep into commerce media, shoppable media, retail media. We're going to talk about what it all means and how it all sits under the umbrella of commerce media.
Broadly, for me, Nick, it's encompassing of all content types that I guess lead to that transactional outcome. So we've seen the emergence of the likes of, Coles 360, Cartology, all of these retailers are getting in on the game, and that's because they've got this great first-party transactional data. Combine that with some of their owned assets, their canvases within store, their canvases on their websites or in their email, and you've got a really powerful combination. For me, though, commerce media is much broader than that. It's particularly when you're thinking about content. Content's kind of the glue that holds it all together. So you've got one retail media network to the next one. How do you bring it all together?
Yeah.
And I think that's the secret sauce for me, is how you get the content to play that role for you, that antidote to fragmentation that might be caused by the increase in these different retail media networks. And then, of course, you've got a subset of that where you've got shoppable media, which is, a traditional ad slot or a piece of native content that you can activate a transactional outcome from. And emerging technologies like, Voodoo's technology allows you to literally shop from the page. We've seen some really good success with that, with the likes of Walk Award-winning Moet and Chandon, a great case study where they were actually able to retail bottles of Moet and Chandon directly from the Vogue website without clicking off to their site, but they got to keep the consumer, they got to keep the data. And that's what's exciting about shoppable media. So there's a lot to unpack in this space, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I like that you've dropped in that Walk award-winning campaign, Paul. That was nicely done. I appreciate that.
It was a nice segue.
That was a great segue. You and I have discussed this at length in many different geographic locations.
We have.
And I think that what we're seeing is commerce media position itself as the fundamental umbrella that lots of these different types of capabilities sit within, and retail media is a part of that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in the past we've kind of fought between commerce media and retail media. They're two separate things. Are they side by side? Commerce media encompasses the whole lot. And I think what we're seeing, especially now that a lot of those retail media networks are thinking about, well, how do we actually engage customers off network? How far do we take our retail media network into, say, the wild? And what does that look like? And what technologies are we using? And what do we traditionally say that would have been performance marketing? How are we bringing those in and, and using it to drive, say, a performance brand outcome within commerce?
Yep.
I think the question around what commerce is it's commerce itself. And quote, I say, Amy Owen from Kinesso in New York, commerce itself is not a performance tool. Commerce itself is commerce, but performance can be within that as well. And I think commerce media sits on top of the whole thing and wrap it all up. And I think we're going to see more and more of this in the next few years. I think retail media has had a great run, but I think the idea around driving consumers through shoppable capabilities and shoppable interfaces and that always-on selling, we're going to see more and more of that. And you and I discussed that. We saw all that starting to bubble up last year, but we're seeing more of it this year as well, and it's only going to grow.
I think it comes back to, with anything, retail media networks are getting their time in the sun, and for very good reason, as we've discussed. That first-party transactional data is such a strong signal to drive some performance, but are they addressing the top of the funnel as well? So like anything, there's no silver bullet in marketing.
No.
But maybe taking a more holistic commerce media approach where it's commerce-powered content that can go across a retail media network. It can sit within shoppable media. It can drive from in-store. It might give marketers the ammunition to have that outcome that they're searching for.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the retail media networks start to uncover and take on board now that, the stake in the ground. So in the US with Walmart, for example, Walmart acquiring the TV platform Vizio and saying, okay, we're now going to drive customers inside those environments. We're going to make those environments available as part of our network. What else are we going to see? That's the first case of that.
Best Buys and Roku with the button on the controller.
Yep, they're all moving into that, right?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting space. I think that you and I have experienced some great innovation coming out of Australia, especially across a lot of premium publishers.
Little old Australia, imagine that, innovating ahead of the world.
Little old Australia. We always say that, exactly, and
the Hills Hoist and shoppable media. I mean,
the Victor Mower. We're going to see more of this innovation coming from here, and we're also going to see it matching what's happening on a global stage, because there's a lot of innovation, a lot of change happening still. So commerce media encompasses a lot. I think we would agree, right?
Yeah, I think it's got to be part of your strategy. I think we heard from Evan Shapiro at the News Corp Decoded event about the hierarchy of feeds, that it's a user-centric era, and that with that smartphone device, you got to be where the consumer is. And you got to be in an environment of their choosing. It's user-centric. They get to choose whether they consume your content, your ads in a social feed, on a website, in an app environment. And I think commerce media and a holistic strategy allows you to do that. It allows you to meet them where they are and allows the user to have control. Shoppable media in particular, you mentioned before that it's not purely a performance outcome. It's not. It's giving them the choice.
Correct.
It's giving them the choice just to check the price, to choose the colors, to see the range. They don't necessarily have to purchase, but that choice might ultimately drive an in-store transaction, for example.
Yeah.
But that choice is also there if they're in the market, ready to buy now, intending to buy earpods for the day.
Yep.
They can buy it there and then without disrupting their content journey.
And I would confidently say that we've seen some pretty incredible campaigns run across News Corp that would fall into a performance branding bucket, where they're driving performance, but we know that it's actually delivering on brand uplift as well. And there's been some really interesting outcomes. My
colleague Jess calls it brand, action, and transaction.
Yeah.
And it's that full funnel approach that these sorts of campaigns deliver. We talk about the Moet and Chandon case study because it's a shining light. We had all the tracking in place and the client's permission to use it as a case study. And it really did show that right at the top of the funnel, we were increasing brand awareness. I mean, Moet and Chandon, it's got high brand awareness, and we're still able to increase unaided brand awareness by 38%. The engagement in the content itself that helped drive consideration, purchase intent went up double digits, and of course, the transactional element of that shoppable video was able to deliver huge results in terms of the actual units transacted.
A great case study of performance branding, right?
Yeah.
Driving a shoppable outcome whilst lifting that awareness and then engagement on brand.
We got great results, and the performance of the campaign was great, but we were able to answer all of the marketers' objectives. And I mean, we've called it double duty, where we're able to do brand and performance at the same time with this sort of commerce media or shoppable media approach.
Yeah, that's part of that segment that falls deeply within the commerce media realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that space that we're talking about. I think we've summed that up pretty well.
I think so.
I think that was clear.
The underlying principle, though, of commerce media is great technology, great first-party data. Because without the data, you're not going to be able to get any of the performance, whether it's a brand performance or whether it's a transactional outcome performance. And so when you combine great content, with great marketing principles with that sort of technology, that's when you get the secret sauce that commerce media and the promise that it can deliver. And that's when you get great award-winning campaigns, but, on the whole, performance as well as those brand metrics answered.
Yeah.
So, Nick, I think there's lots of different ways to activate commerce media and shoppable content, but I think there's a big difference between shopping from the page with a click to buy right there and then versus the traditional sort of affiliate model where you click to another link to then purchase. It's removing the friction that is the secret sauce, I think, in commerce media.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's the take-up that we're seeing. We clearly can see that's where the market will be going and consumers will be adopting it at a far greater pace because that's where their learned behavior is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're learning to consume and convert inside moments of, if it's inside a social or different kind of platforms, they're consuming in the moment and they're not being redirected around. I think that's the difference is being able to shop at the point of inspiration and having a technology that allows you to do that, which becomes a conversion pathway to a point of transaction. Well, we know, right? So we know that journey is not high performing.
Yeah.
We know that affiliates, links and affiliates could be performing a hell of a lot better. So there's a real opportunity for brands to partner with content providers, premium content providers, to allow that transaction to happen right at the moment. And we know through studies and we know through our own metrics, when you allow a consumer to convert at the point of inspiration, akin to what we're seeing on some of the social platforms, if you actually leverage that behavior and provide them another opportunity to do that, your performance increases.
Well, it's really common sense, isn't it?
Absolute common sense. And we've seen that, right? We've seen that really successfully.
Yeah.
When the effort is put into producing premium content, which inspires a consumer, the last thing that consumer wants is to be taken down the garden path and click off and click down.
Relog in.
By and relogging and opening other tabs and browsers. There is an expectation that has been driven by other platforms that they can just shop right there. 2 or 3 clicks and transacting, and they get all their transaction information from the brand. They go back to that piece of content and they keep consuming. We're going to see more of this. Mm-hmm. That's the real difference between something that's truly shoppable and something that's just redirecting people away, which is pretty much, well, I would say is the traditional way to shop, which is you click away a million times into different tabs. That's changing fast.
I would say there's still a role for those traditional affiliate models, but I think it's really important to establish with shoppable media the difference between the players that are claiming a shoppable media outcome from that point of inspiration versus the traditional affiliate models that are wrapped up as shoppable media. There's an important distinction to make between those two models.
There is.
And as we said, it's that common sense piece, right? If you're removing a barrier in the purchase journey, you're going to get less friction. So therefore, you'll get higher conversion because you're shopping right from the trusted environment that you chose to engage with in the first place, and you're making that transaction there and then. I mean, I know I roll my eyes when I have to click a couple of times and it gets too hard basket. I'll probably go in-store to purchase now. It's just made it too hard for me.
Yeah. And that's your personal, data set of one experience, right?
Yeah.
But you look at the broad data and you look at the conversion metrics off the back of, say, different types of like affiliates, those traditional clicking off. We know they can be improved. Yes, there's a need for some of that right now. We need to meet audiences who expect that, but we know there's an opportunity for brands to improve that. And the technology is arriving, and it's all, we're doing a lot of that ourselves, haven't we? Especially when we actually stitch it together with fantastic premium content like what News Corp does. We're seeing some really interesting outcomes and performance lifts.
Well, if you think about different demographics and their, I guess, tech platform of choice, whilst some of us more mature types like you and I might still, love the open web and be using our Chrome browsers or our Safari browsers on our phones. I mean, the younger generation, they don't leave TikTok.
No.
So you need to have that frictionless experience within the TikTok environment or within the content environment
that
they've chosen. The second you ask them to click out of somewhere, that's a no-go zone.
That's it. What happens when you, say, employing a traditional experience that maybe you and I, Paul, as you've alluded to there, the mature ones, the mature people.
I don't think anyone's ever called me mature in my life, but let's take it.
No, I think that's a first. But yeah, when you actually try to employ that on a younger generation who is spending 2 or 3, 4 hours a day on a closed platform where they can be entertained and they can shop all in one, you actually end up delivering a poor experience. Not even a poor brand experience, it's a poor shopping experience. It's a poor experience in whole. So I think that's the opportunity to understand your consumers that are coming through, that new generation. How do they shop? What's their expectation? And meet them on that level, right?
But I think you've just described the opportunity that commerce media done well presents. How do you get in the open web, if it's the more mature gentlemen like you and I, how do you get compelling content no matter what the platform? And how do you make it shoppable? And how do you make it frictionless? And that's the promise that commerce media offers as a component part of that whole ecosystem. Now, whether it's delivered in a retail media network, whether it's delivered on a News Corp asset or a Channel 9 asset, or it's in TikTok, that content experience can be the thing that brings it all together for all of the consumers that a brand might be targeting.
Well, you're absolutely spot on. That premium content experience, let's not forget the capability to have an always-on shopping capability. Those generations inside a platform like TikTok know that what I see, I can buy. I may be entertained by this piece of content, but I know I can buy anything off it as well. And my expectation is I can shop where I like, when I like. And it's the advertiser's opportunity to be able to meet that. Yeah, look, I think from my experience, and even this morning, Paul, I was presenting to an agency, a commerce agency, big one out of New York, and demonstrating what our product does and talking about basically performance driving transactable attribution and through different campaigns and using different experiences through the journeys, like starting first by doing, say, a catalog and then having the data on the first party data and then able to put something else in front of them, which is, kind of drills down into that content, which has more of a shop experience. So almost like presenting a shopping journey throughout different experiences. This is very new even to an agency sitting in New York. It's very, very new. I think that's where we talk about Australia being innovative and our e-commerce capabilities advanced.
So we might want to highlight that the danger is that this feels the same. Like that's the problem. Everyone goes, yeah, shoppable. We've been doing that for ages because you can click and you click out the affiliate or you click a media ad and then it goes through to buy, or that they are using performance media to deliver a shoppable outcome. But commerce media, now the technology's changed. It is different.
It's an advancement of the space.
Yeah.
Shopping media has been shoppable media 1.0.
This stuff is all pretty new. I think what we need to do is really establish that and not confuse it with methods of the past, which is still effective.
Yeah.
People think shoppable media or they think commerce media and they think, yeah, I've seen that before, right? I've run performance campaigns, cost per click to deliver a commerce outcome. But that's not what we're really talking about, isn't it, Nick?
No.
The difference is the technology's come so far.
Yeah, I think that's delivering a journey.
Yeah, I agree.
And taking that shopper on a journey, right? There's a lot of measurement behind that journey and there's a lot of work that goes into optimizing those points of the journey. What we're saying is, and I think you would agree, and you and I talk at length about this is the kind of the evolution of those traditional shopper capabilities that have been offered to advertisers, right?
Yeah.
It's change. It's still within the capability of shopping and commerce, but it's the evolution and improvement of the technology, which then shortens pathways, shortens conversion journeys. And I would think it's more in line with offering an experience in line with what the consumer wants rather than traditionally, which is still very effective, right? We agree they're still very effective and they're still being used a lot. But it's very much taking the consumer and along a pathway and a journey that fits the needs of the advertiser or the brand. Was what we're saying is it's not user-centric, right?
Yep.
That's what the opportunity is, right? It's different because it's an evolution of what was there.
I think the evolution addresses one of marketers' core problems is with all the different channels they've got and the increased fragmentation. It's like, what's the old adage? I know 50% of my media is working. I just don't know what 50% is working.
Yeah.
And I think at the crux of it, commerce media offers that antidote to that fragmentation.
Yeah.
We've talked about how it delivers brand outcomes, but also transactional outcomes. And so it helps you bring and coordinate your entire campaign because it's content-based, cross-channel. It presents the opportunity to shop there and then where you can get that outcome, but also help you measure interaction rates. So for me, it's that promise of really tightening up that fragmentation issue. And like you just said, that brand experience that you can control through content whilst offering up the opportunity to purchase.
Yeah, and that's that always on commerce experience. Tapping into the user. What does the user want? That user wants to be able to shop at the point of inspiration whenever they like, whenever they like. They don't want to have to be taken to a destination to convert. Provide them the opportunity to do that. That's what makes it new. That's what makes it different. That's what the change is. So that's what we need to identify for you, the listener.
We talk about it being new for the marketers, but it's also new for the consumers.
Yeah, agreed.
For me, as you've mentioned, the expectation probably from younger demographics is that they can shop right from the content. Maybe not through, the older demographics, but the more and more this proliferates, the more the expectation is going to be from the user, hey, can I shop to buy now? Like, I need that convenience in my life. This is the promise of AI. This is the promise of digital.
Yeah.
We saw everyone in the pandemic experience e-commerce shopping bonanza.
Yeah.
It's petered back because I reckon that the experience that they were hoping for wasn't quite there. And I feel like this is the thing that when people really see how seamless this can be at the user experience level, it's going to become an expectation that all brands offer the ability to shop right from, whether it be an ad, whether it be a piece of content, whether it be within a retail media network or their social post, the expectation is going to be there.
And we know, right, and this could be, this is a couple of self-proclaimed experts speaking on their Commerce Media Matters podcast, but you and I know there's solid plans to drive more of these types of technologies and this outcome, and to meet the consumer where they are with programs like Amazon Anywhere. It's been a really interesting program that Amazon's been running, I wouldn't say quietly, but they've been going about their business and really understanding the consumer and understanding also where those consumers are. A lot of those consumers are on, consuming premium content.
Yeah.
They're sitting outside of social platforms as well. And Amazon wants to meet those consumers where they are. And a program like Amazon Anywhere, which allows for consumers to shop an Amazon product through an Amazon interface on a premium publisher website or anywhere on the open web, and convert using their Prime login details right there at the moment of inspiration and go back to that piece of content. That's coming down the line, right? That's been running really successful in the US.
Yeah, right. They're live testing this, aren't they, Nick?
They're live testing this. For a company like Amazon at the size and the level of innovation that they culturally drive within that business, there's something to be said of what's coming down the line. And I think we really need to be mindful, and advertisers need to be aware of that.
Recent press has also shown, I think there was an article that said that, Facebook or Meta was sitting on a retail media bonanza because they are able to take transactions in their environment. So they're not the only ones. Amazon aren't the only ones. You've got Shopify that's been working with YouTube for a long time now.
Really closely, yeah.
And so I think, with all these big players in this space, it's going to get better, more seamless. And with every innovation step forward they take that, gives the user a better experience, the more users are going to expect that wherever they go.
Yeah.
So McKinsey predicts that by 2026, commerce media could be a goldmine with 1.3 trillion of enterprise value. Have you got a share in that, Nick?
I'm trying.
So let's unpack this whole segment. Like, what are the numbers? There's some pretty powerful data points, that everyone's talking about.
Well, you're a big numbers man. You've been up all night researching this. You love your data.
For sure.
We were talking about The Office yesterday. He's going to come armed. But I think part of delivering on such huge numbers is, for me, and I'm sure you've got your take on it, but for me, it comes back to some fundamentals which we've just touched on. So if we actually think about, let's look at some of the fundamentals. Let's look at, say, overall, e-com conversion rates, which I think at the last count from our research only just last week was sitting at around 3.6 total, 3.6%. And let's say that's a monetary transaction, right?
Yep.
We know that once you allow consumers to shop at the point of inspiration, you can increase that significantly.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that we need to take into consideration a lot of these advancements and improvements and innovations that are going to be delivered by e-commerce media. That's what adds to the value of that and that potential of 1.3 trillion. It's the innovation that will actually help unlock that. I think that plays a significant role.
Yeah. For me, it's where does AI play into this? And of course, we're going to have to get to those two little letters and, business models of the future, whereby you might see zero-click search or the role of an influencer or a brand play a huge part in delivering the outcomes. So traditional media models might not be there, but if you're going to be able to still push to a transaction, then that's what's really interesting about commerce media and why I think it's so interesting for everyone and why the numbers are so big is because that's where, content providers are going to have to derive their revenues they used to get from just simple ads at the top of the funnel. They're going to need to show that conversion. They're going to need to own the customer journey right from, inspiration to purchase. And that's what we've been talking about, right? That's what underpins this area.
Yeah, even in the last 24 hours, a couple of meetings that I've had with some stakeholders and really interesting practitioners in this space from New York speak to that, right? They really speak to the fact that you've got to demonstrate, let's deliver on a performance outcome. Yes, let's base that in premium content. Let's meet the customer where they are, but we need to demonstrate transactable attribution.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our advertisers want. And that's a lot of that's being driven by the success of retail media networks into a broader commerce media space.
I'm glad that's a beautiful segue because I love the measurement
Thank you very much.
piece. I'm very passionate about the measurement piece. And this is why commerce media, retail media networks, it's all got to be underpinned by the data. You have to see the outcome, the attribution of the spend that you've put in there. And I think that 1.3 trillion only sort of factors in what we can see today in retail media networks. I think, the likes of some of the stuff that News Corp's doing, what we're doing at News Corp with our buy now segments, where the data usage, we're charging a premium for those high intent segments that we know where people are in the market to purchase a product or service right now. They're actively researching the best deal for a particular product or service. So I think it's actually bigger than 1.3 trillion because that stuff's not being measured in here. This is just the measurement, I think, of the retail media network opportunity and maybe not even factoring in the data opportunity and some of these other things that are adjacent and the measurement and all those things that are underpinned by the data stacks.
What number are you going to hang your hat on?
Oh, look, I'm not an analyst.
I love the data. I love my metrics, but I'm not an analyst. So here's a question for you. And we're talking to you, the listener, you, the advertiser, you, the brand, you, the marketer out there. Thank you for listening to us. Where do they start, Paul? Because we're talking about a lot of innovation that's here. We're talking a lot of innovation change that we know is coming down the line. Where does someone like a marketer or for a really well-known brand or a mid-level brand or any across the market in Australia, where do they start with commerce media?
Well, I mean, I'll try and take off my just call News Corp hat. That's what I want to say. But with anything that's new like this, it's a test and learn approach, right? And there is some really simple ways to start trialing this. We talked about traditional affiliate models. There is some great commerce media affiliate opportunities to dip the toe in the water. There are really great ways to use data, and if you don't have your data in a good place, you can partner with publishers. You can partner with transactional data companies to do a bit of a toe in the water around performance to a commerce outcome. And of course, there is great agencies out there. I mean, IPG, OMG, they're all advising clients on this stuff now. I know that they are really interested in what the Voodoo team's doing, in what News Corp's communicating with these guys. It's high on their agenda too. And they're advising all the way through to, e-commerce technologies to payment gateways. So there is support out there, but the advice is to do a toe in the water. If it's just a commerce media campaign to start with, a small amount of spend, significant enough to get good results back, make sure that you've got the measurement in place to make sure that you're getting the return on that ad spend before you go deeper.
Yeah, seeing some amazing teams in some of these agencies and premium publishers really lean into commerce media. It's a great place to start. They're really doubling down on capability and what they can share and bring to life for marketers. So start there. Speak to who you're working with. Yeah. We're seeing it ourselves, right? We're seeing more of it being on offer. Great place to start.
Yeah, I mean, even ad tech companies like Criteo or Outbrain, they've all got new products in this area, and a test and learn approach or trying to use the content to loop all those things together is a great way to sort of trial what works for your brand and your service.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, thanks for tuning in. I think we have gone deep today, Paul. I think we've provided enough information that we can allow some marketers out there and some brands to really supercharge their commerce media strategies. We're going to talk more about it, but I think I've loved today.
I did too. I enjoyed it. But I think, look, we're looking forward to some of the massive lineup of guests, some experts to add some extra voice, some extra weight behind this, emerging area.
No doubt.
We'll explore CTV and shoppable. I'm looking forward to some of the huge guests that are just experts in this space. So, look, you should follow, subscribe, click, purchase, get on board.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to the Commerce Media Matters podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe. We're always on the pulse of the ever-changing landscape of commerce media, ready to share the newest trends, insightful perspectives, and expert opinions with you. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep making media that matters. This podcast is executively produced and edited by Priya Tahazadeh, with co-producers Sandy Ho, Meg Lirsch, and me, Rachel Fang. This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Bidjigal, Gadigal, and Wurundjeri people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land.